Hey there, you fabulous folks. I hope your day has been absolutely awesome. We're back for another exciting episode of What If Naruto Was the Conqueror of the Shinobi World. A big shout out to the amazing author behind this fanfiction and show them some love. You'll find their details in the description box below. If this what if scenario is getting your imagination going, drop a comment down below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to explore more mind-blowing what ifs on the channel. Alright, without further ado, let's jump right into this video. Everyone went quiet for a moment, then suddenly rushed to take a seat. Naruto sat in a chair and just waited for the exam to start, taking his seat. 5 minutes later, all of the genins had been seated in their pre-designated seats, completely separating the members of each team. He was stealing glances around him to try and map the seating system of the room. He noted many Konoha Chunin all around the room, sitting in chairs and intently watching every genin. At that moment, Ibiki Morino, their examiner, coughed, gaining attention from every participant. Listen closely. There are many important rules for this first test. I'll write them on the board while explaining them. However, questions are not allowed. He looked over the nervous genin and grinned mercilessly. The first rule. All participants start with 10 points, corresponding with 10 questions in the test. This test uses a subtraction system, meaning if you answer all questions correctly, you'll end up with 10 points. The third rule. Anyone caught cheating during the exam will have 2 points subtracted for every offense. For that purpose, we have testing officers spread all around the room. If you lose all your points for cheating, you'll be asked to leave. Ibiki explained his hand with the chalk moving up and down the board. Naruto was listening closely to the speech with a frown. You have to realize that the ones who are pathetic enough to get caught cheating will be destroying themselves. As Shinobi trying to achieve the level of Chunin, be proud ninjas. Oh, and the final rule. Those that lose all their points, either by getting caught cheating or failing to answer, will be failed along with their teammates. The last rule caused the whole room to break out in sweat and murmurs, Sakura furiously banging her head on the desk, and even Sasuke whitening his eyes in surprise. Naruto recalled one piece of information he had heard from Anko before concerning Ibiki Morino, his current examiner. Ibiki Morino. The best and, at the same time, worst interrogator of the Konoha torture and interrogation force. What the hell is this kind of person doing here? The exam will last 1 hour. You can turn the tests around and begin. Naruto hastily glanced at the test and read the first question. You are in a situation where the enemy use wind release. Great sickle weasel jutsu against you, and the only jutsu in your arsenal is fire release. Great fireball jutsu. Will you be able to win? Explain, the hell. What kind of question is that? It's too hard for a genin. Of course, the fire element is stronger against the wind. However, you have to take the level of the technique into account. If the wind jutsu is a higher rank, then you can win, but only then. The Great Fireball is a C rank but can be stronger the more influential the user who uses it, but still, the problem doesn't specify how strong the user is, so the answer is the Fire Jutsu. Second question. You are standing on the ground, you see several opponents surrounding you, the only jutsu at disposal in your arsenal is Shadow Clone, Wind Style Great Breakthrough, and Fire Style Fireball. Naruto stopped reading and massaged his temples. He reread the question, and he understood it. First, use Shadow Clone and make another clone. With that done, make the clone use Wind Style, while you use Fireball to burn down the area, along with any enemy left around. These can be questions for a genin. Even Shikamaru would have trouble with this, and he's loads smarter than I am. There has to be something. He glanced up at the examiner and the testing officers around the room. Now that I think about it, it doesn't make sense that they would let us cheat 4 times before sacking us out. Why wouldn't they sack us immediately? Why? Briefly gazing over the rest of the questions, Naruto swallowed hard. Hearing the testing officer on his ferrite scribbling something, he mentally cursed. I'm missing something, again, the examiner is a sadistic interrogator, and we have enough chances to cheat. What does that tell me? And what was with those final words? The ones who are pathetic enough to get caught cheating will be destroying themselves. As Shinobi trying to achieve the level of Chunin, be proud ninjas, yeah, of course, we would be destroying ourselves. Kakashi's face told him something showed itself in Naruto's mind, and he widened his eyes. Of course. A ninja should look underneath the underneath. If they tell us cheating would cost us everything, it's the same when on a dangerous mission where you either gather information or die. This is not a test of intelligence, but one of the ability to gather information with our skills. It makes sense. Naruto thought with a slight grin, but then it faltered. Shikamaru has his wits, and Ino can use her possession jutsu to learn the answers. The minutes passed quickly, and many genin got caught and expelled from the exams. Some of them tried to resist, but every single one of them was mercilessly kicked out. Naruto ignored it all, and after successfully answering the questions, he saw he didn't answer 2 of the questions. With that done, his hand touched the desk underneath in front of him, leaving a seal. The words slowly moved away, and the seal reached the guy closest to him. The seal stopped shifting once it reached his chest and spread, creating branches. Yujiro had to give Naruto credit. He looked pretty intelligent, especially his move under the table. Yujiro didn't see why he did it, but figured there was a reason for it. She turned her head, and her eyes turned to Matatabi's eyes. From the corner of her eyes, she could see the words of a student below their level. Despite being very far away, she could see and read the words as if he was just in front of her. Matatabi's eyes allowed her to see very far, even see the details of a coin from a mile away. Yujiro smiled as she started writing for the test. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, copying the student's movement in front of his table. Karen did nothing but write the symbol of Uzumaki and wrote a seal around it. The seal was completed, and her red eyes glanced at everyone in the room, and her eyes noticed Naruto Uzumaki. Karen remembered that was his name, and a chakra chain came from underneath her foot, reaching the blonde. The seal in her paper disappeared, and soon the answers were written in her paper. She quickly moved her chakra chains away, but wondered whether or not Naruto noticed her, and just let her copy the answers, or he didn't notice her. That would be pretty disappointing for an Uzumaki. Fuyu just smiled at the answers. Her insects spread around the room and returned, giving her the needed information. She even hacked one of Shino's insects. Samui created a small mirror water jutsu in front of her right palm. With her left palm, she made another small mirror around the pink-haired girl. Samui noticed she did not once look distressed, so she figured she must know the answers. The mirror around Sakura showed the view in the mirror to her palm. Seeing that she had already answered every question, she started writing her answers. Dara put his hand on his left eye. An eye made of sand appeared around the shoulder of a student, and he started writing the answers. Shikamaru was in a deep sleep, but he had already answered every single question. The sound ninja Dosu used the sound wave around him to read the answers from the shinobi around him. Neji quickly used his Byakugan, and so did Hinata, who got her answers copied from Shino. While Akamaru was above Kiba's head, his eyes looked at the answers and barked at Kiba, answering him. Ino used her cleanse technique and took over Sakura's body, and started answering one by one. Later, she would help Choji since she knew that Shika had already answered all the questions, despite not being in the same team. Conqueror had gone to the toilet during all this, and when he returned with a confident smile, Ibiki turned to him with a frown. "I hope you find your trip enlightening, princess," Ibiki commented. This caused many to hold their laughter, and as soon as Shinobi growled, "I'm a boy, sir, and is just warping," Conqueror corrected, running out of patience that everyone was mistaking him for a girl. "Could have fooled me. Boys usually don't wear makeup and don't play with dolls," Ibiki answered, clearly indicating that he knew what he did, and his right hand had 2 fingers raised. Showing that 2 more missteps and he's out along with his team. The Suna Shinobi felt like someone just threw a bucket of cold water in his face, knowing he could have easily ruined their plans with his little trick. Conqueror walked back to his seat. Tamari could hardly contain her laughter. Conqueror murmured traitor under his breath. Naruto finished his final question. He had noticed the chakra chain from Karen, and even felt the guilt, but it was a good sign. He was happy to know she knew Fuinjutsu, and Uzumaki who didn't know Fuinjutsu wouldn't make sense. Kakashi. Meanwhile, in the Jonin lounge, Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai, and Asuma were all relaxing as their students took the exam. Might Guy was beside Kakashi, Kurenai and Asuma sat near each other, across from Kakashi. Asuma took a long drag off his cigarette before looking at the copy ninja. "Bish, you really screwed that one up," Kakashi, Asuma said with a slightly amused expression after Kakashi explained precisely what happened during the wave mission. Putting a team of green genin through a mess like that without even calling for backup. "I bet the old..." Kakashi chuckled sheepishly and rubbed the back of his head. "Well, we all make mistakes, right? And everything turned out fine in the end. I noticed you didn't answer my question," Asuma pointed out with a grin. "Things are going to be boring for the next month. We can't even carry out missions while our students take on the exam," Kakashi complained, the usual lazy expression he tended to wear holding a hint of boredom. "Now you know how I feel. I can't wait for this damn probationary period to be over," Guy said to the copy ninja, grumbling at the end. "But I have to agree, this is dull. At least before I had something to do." Asuma chuckled. "Hey, don't worry. Those kids might be back sooner than you think." "Do you know something we don't, Asuma?" Kakashi asked. Asuma shrugged. "Just that word is the examiner for the first stage happens to be Ibiki." I sat up and frowned. "Ibiki? Ibiki Morino?" "The very same," Asuma replied. Kakashi's usual aloof expression gained a hint of concern. "They put them with that sadist from the start." Kurenai's brow furrowed, not liking the sound of that, and slightly worried about her team. "Sadist?" I raised a brow. "You've never heard of him. She's a new Jonin, and unlike you, she never met him before." "Not surprising, she never heard of him," Asuma pointed out with a grin. Kurenai rolled her eyes at the slight dig on her status as a newbie. "So, who is he?" "An expert," Asuma began, taking another puff of his stick before turning and looking at the sole kunoichi in the room. "Of torture and interrogation. The special Jonin. Ibiki Morino of Konoha's T&I department. Don't worry, there won't be anything physical. That's not where his skills lie. His area of expertise is mental torture. Kakashi wasn't worried for his team, but he wondered why he just had a bad feeling like everything would soon come crashing down on top of him like a boulder. Naruto. He glanced at the 10th and final question and grimaced. It was almost time. Okay. All of you must have noticed the 10th question. It's time for it. His head finally leaving the test form, Naruto realized that the number of genin had drastically lowered, and barely half of them were still present. That was one thing he liked, but the thing he certainly didn't like was the examiner's sadistic grin. For this 10th question, I'll have to add a few additional rules. I call them rules of desperation. First rule. You must decide whether you will or will not take it. What? Sakura couldn't hold her emotions anymore and yelled in anger. It's quite simple. Either you choose to take the question, but if you fail, not only will you lose the exam, but you will be forbidden ever to take the exam ever again, or you can choose not to take it, and in that case, your points will be reduced to 0, and you will fail, along with the rest of your team. The silence that followed after that was more than loud. The absence of any sound was so loud, the beads broke out of sweat dripping from the contestants' foreheads. What kind of stupid rule is that? Something like that has never been on the exams before. Some genin angrily asked. The rest of them gulped when the examiner started to chuckle darkly. Too bad for you, brats. You were simply unlucky. This year, I'm the examiner. However, as I told you, you have a way out. Just forfeit and try again next year. Vegito felt uncomfortable and intense. She knew she would most likely know the answer, but what about Carrie and Amoy? They would never forgive her if they failed because of her. Her hands started shaking, and her eyes checked Amoy and Carrie, who were both pale and trembling. She then noticed that Naruto looked as bored as a person could get, his hands behind his neck, his head resting on the head of the chair. Ibiki saw many were calculating in their minds if they should surrender or try. He grinned evilly, but then his eyes found the blonde without a hint of fear in his entire body. Blonde, you're not afraid, Ibiki challenged him. He thought the kid was either a moron or intelligent or a bit of both. Why would I be afraid? If words are all you can give us, go ahead, give me your stupid question. You think I'm afraid to end up again in my whole life? Well, you should know I never give up. What kind of shinobi I would be if I surrender the first blockade in front of me, and I don't need the title Chunin to achieve my dream. I will be known as the strongest genin ever, Naruto exclaimed and slammed his open hand on the table. This caught mixed reactions from everyone. Yujiro smiled and took the courage back. Sasuke had to give it to Naruto. He definitely knew how to talk. Ino smiled and was really glad to have Naruto on the same team. Shikamaru smirked. Leave it to Naruto to literally convince everyone into everything. Well said, Naruto, Shikamaru murmured with a smile. Ibiki saw the mood had been broken and saw one by one getting back their courage back. Interesting kid, he thought, and saw that no one would surrender anymore. Is this your final answer? Ibiki shouted and saw many gulps in fear, but still stood their ground. Then, everyone who is still here has officially passed the test, he declared. For a moment, no one said anything, not even a whimper, when suddenly the shouts exploded. Tamari stood up. What do you mean we passed? Does that mean everything we did so far was? Bullshit, Shikamaru agreed immediately. You haven't understood it, have you? Ibiki said, and started explaining the real meaning of the test. Vegito glanced at Naruto beside her, and a smile erupted on her face. She owed him for passing the test. Ibiki explained that the first part was to see how they would get information, and the second part was to see how much they would risk passing a blockade on their road. Suddenly, something broke through the glass window. It looked like a black ball at first, until a young woman appeared out of it and threw two kunes on the ceiling, revealing a large banner behind her. The banner was titled, "The Proctor of the Second Test, the Super Sexy, Anko Midarashi." Heads up, boys and girls. This is no time to be celebrating. I'll be your next proctor, Anko Midarashi. Are you ready for the second test? Good. Then let's go. Follow me. Anko said enthusiastically as she pumped her fist in the air. Everyone's eyes were widened at the sudden appearance of the special Jonin. Everyone except Naruto, of course, who was able to sense that she was coming. The boys in the room, however, were blushing heavily at the mere sight of the sexy and busty purple-haired girl, which did not go unnoticed by Naruto. Simps, Naruto whispered under his breath. Ibiki, who was standing behind the large banner, sneaked his head out on the side, and glared a deadpan look at the snake mistress. You're early again, Ibiki said. Anko blushed embarrassingly at her untimely appearance, as her fist was still in the air. Great. A screaming nutcase. Goddamn. She's a total babe. Kuba thought, with hearts in his eyes and drooled in his mouth. You know, on some level, Anko kinda reminds me of Naruto-kun. Ino thought. Anko looked around the classroom and was surprised that there were still so many candidates left. How many are there? Anko turned to Ibiki. Ibiki, you seriously let all these guys pass? Your test was too easy. You must be getting soft. Anko said with a smirk. You can blame that on your gaki. Or, it could be a stronger crop of candidates this year. Ibiki stated. My gaki? You mean? Anko then turned her head and saw her favorite blonde, who was giving her a bright smile. She then shunshin in front of his desk and grabbed his head with both her hands and pulled his face towards her chest, smothering him between her voluptuous breasts. Gaki, I see you passed. You made your Anko-chan Suo proud and Suo much money, teehee. Anko says happily as she continues to smother Naruto. Anko, I can't wait, Naruto said out of breath, as his face was turning vermilion red and he only managed to mumble his words between her breasts. Everyone was shocked. All the male candidates' nose was hosing down blood, while the females were gasping with shock. Samui and Yujiro were glaring at Anko with pure jealousy, wishing that they could be in her place instead. Hinata, Karen, and Fui were blushing, their cheeks red. Kiba's face showed nothing but complete defeat. Naruto is literally a man god, and hot women will always be drawn to him like a magnet. He just needs to accept that as his norm now. The strange old Akusa Kunoichi, however, was simply licking her lips with her unusually large tongue, as her dark eyes were saying she had just found a brand new prey to hunt. Anko then released Naruto from her juicy milk makers and was giggling when she saw the blonde's extremely red face. She then walked back to the front of the class with a shameless smirk. She then turns to Ibiki. Well, my money is still on my Gaki and his team, but the rest? Meh. They sure don't look like it. Trust me, before I'm done with them, more than half will be eliminated. Anko said with a sadistic smirk. Ha. More than half. Really? Sakura asked fearfully. Hehehe, this is going to be fun, Anko said with a smirk, never leaving her face. Alright, you maggots have it easy so far, but things are going to be different starting first thing in the morning. I'll let your squad leaders know where you're to meet me. Dismissed, Anko announced. And just like that, everyone left the classroom, heading home to rest and possibly celebrating their passing of the first test. Once the classroom was completely emptied, Ibiki went to collect the candidates' papers until he came across Naruto's. He smirked when he saw that the blonde Uzumaki was one of the few to get a perfect score. But what caught his curiosity, however, was the hidden note written on the back of the paper that was intended for him. Ibiki then read the note, but his eyes immediately narrowed when he was done. Dear Ibiki-san, I just want to inform you that the candidate, Kabuto Yakushi, is a person of great interest. I strongly believe that he is an enemy spy. He somehow managed to attain very detailed and incredibly sensitive information on the other candidates, both foreign and domestic, including myself. Whom he is spying for, I do not know yet. But that fact that a mere genin can gather this level of info is quite suspicious. Please take this information directly to the Hokage. Naruto Uzumaki. Ibiki grasped the paper tightly and immediately sunshined to Hiruzen's office. The next day, Training Ground 44. All the genin candidates were now staring at the massive forest behind Anko. The mere sight of the large trees, the rusted fences, and the growing shadows was enough to intimidate the bravest of souls. All except Naruto and his fellow Jinchurikis, of course. What is this place? Hinata asked. This, Little Hyuga, is the location for the exam's second phase. It's the 44th battle training zone. But we call it the Forest of Death, Anko said with a sadistic grin. 2 hours ago, Hokage's office. Naruto went to see Hiruzen a few hours before the second test was about to start. He wanted to discuss with the old Kage regarding the note he gave to Ibiki yesterday regarding a certain silver-haired boy. Ibiki told me about your message, Naruto-kun. I find it quite troubling, Hiruzen said. Hokage-sama, I've known you all my life. Even if we didn't always have the best friendships, I respect you. But how could you, the fuck-freaking Hokage, not know that a boy with Nono Yakushi's name has been in your village for 4 years? Naruto asked, slightly angry. I honestly don't know what to tell you, Naruto-kun. I have personally registered every single Konoha Shinobi in Kunoichi for the past 14 years, ever since I retook the position of Hokage. And even in my old age, I can still remember every single name. But I never registered a Kabuto Yakushi before, Hiruzen said honestly. Naruto was still angry, but he knew he needed to calm down. Sigh, okay, I believe you, Hokage-sama. It's just, if he is here for that long, there's a chance that he might know certain things about. Naruto couldn't bring himself to finish that sentence. I know, Naruto-kun, I'm so sorry. Naruto was clearly upset. Is there anyone else that has the power to register shinobis in the village beside you? Naruto asked with a serious tone. Aside from me, only the elders. But why would they? Hiruzen's eyes widened, as did Naruto's, as they came to the same conclusion. Danzo, Hiruzen and Naruto said in unison, with venom in their voices. That goddamn warhawk. But the real question is why, though? Do you think Kabuto is in league with Root? Hiruzen asked his apprentice. Maybe. There's a high chance he could be a spy for Root, but my gut is telling me something else. Danzo and his agents always work in the shadows, but Kabuto was showing off like a damn peacock when I first met him. I don't know why he wanted to help us by revealing very confidential info, but I have a feeling he was trying to win someone over. Naruto summarized. I assume he wanted to play on your naivety to gain your trust since you are all rookies. You told me his chakra reserves is around high Jonin level, and that he knows medical ninjutsu. That's a really rare skill to have nowadays. And with how he was able to acquire extensive info from every single candidate in the exam, including you, shows that he is a very capable spy. As for this mysterious Kusa Kunoichi you speak of, her name is Shire. Not much I can tell you about her, except a couple of D ranks and C ranks in her record. She's practically an ordinary genin if you ask me. But I trust your abilities to identify threats, Naruto-kun. But given that Shire is a Chunin exam candidate from Kusa, we can't really do anything about her, unless she broke our laws within the village. No? If we capture him now, whoever he works for will be alerted to our awareness. And whatever they're planning, it will just become bad to worst. We need to preserve the illusion that he is still in control and find out what he's up to, so we can come up with a counter-strategy. Naruto said. I see a friendship with young Shikamaru has made you sharper, Naruto-kun. I'm impressed. I hope you have a plan, my boy. Hiruzen said. I've already placed my path seal on Kabuto. Wherever he goes, I can follow. I'll keep my distance and find out what he's up to in the second test. Have your Anbus stationed around the perimeter in case anything happens. I'll notify Anko-chan later after she makes her announcement. I don't want to give Kabuto a reason to be suspicious if she suddenly acts differently around him. Naruto practically ordered the old Kage. Hiruzen couldn't help but feel nostalgic, as he felt he was being ordered by Minato. Very well, Naruto-kun. I hope you will find what we are looking for. Otherwise, we will never know what we're truly up against. Hiruzen stood up from his chair as he looked out the window. This exam might be the start of something terrible. I just hope we can stop it in time, Hiruzen said. Don't worry, Hokage-sama. We will. I promise, Naruto said with a bright smile as he shunshin out of the office. Now, all the Genin teams arrived at Training Ground 44, where the second part of the Chunin exams would be held. Naruto was standing with his teammates, observing everything around him. There were a total of around 23 teams that were going to be taking part in this round. He was also waiting for further information on what they were going to do in this round. He could see some Chunin and Jonin level shinobi standing there. But what got his attention were the Anbu officers that were present. One thing he realized was that this round was not going to be easy like the last one. He had heard quite a lot about this particular training ground. At that moment, Anko decided to announce the rules and couldn't wait to see just how many would die. Welcome to Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death. My name is Anko Mitarashi, and I will be your proctor for the second round. Before we begin this test, I have something to hand out to you all. She took out forms from her jacket and continued, these are just standard consent forms. Before the test, you all have to read over this form and sign it. Yujiro asked in confusion, but why do we have to sign it? Anko smirked, and her tongue licked her lips slowly, making many male shinobi blush, and not mentioning her arms were crossed under her bust, making them look bigger. There's a very high chance of death involved in this. Some of you may not come back, and by signing it, you agree that you will be taking part in this round at your own risk. Neither I nor the Leaf Village will take responsibility if anything happens to any of you in the forest, she said while grinning evilly. Most of the Genins gulped after hearing her say that, and some of them hesitated to continue the exams. Anko noticed that Naruto wasn't paying any attention to her. While she would bet all her life savings that Naruto would reach the final, that didn't mean that the brat shouldn't pay her attention. Her hand reached the kunai. She knew Naruto would probably see her doing this. He was trained by Kakashi for years, after all, but where was the harm in having some fun? She threw the kunai towards his left cheek with an evil smirk, but Naruto suddenly put two of his fingers and caught it midair. Many Genins around gasped at seeing him catching a kunai with that speed. Sasuke narrowed his eyes slightly. He hadn't seen the kunai coming, while Sakura looked horrified, her eyes searching for whoever threw the kunai. Ino smiled, despite thinking that her boyfriend was showing off. Shika rolled his eyes, finding the whole situation troublesome. Anko suddenly appeared behind Naruto, her impressive bust pressed against his back. Naruto couldn't help but blush slightly from the close contact with his lover. I see you weren't paying attention, little brat. Those that don't usually pay attention are the first to die. Slowly she whispered in his ear, and dragged the words slowly. Naruto chuckled at her words. You don't need to worry, Anko-chan. After all, Big Bro Kakashi did train me, Naruto replied, and feeling malice intent coming from behind him. Naruto's muscles tensed immediately, something Anko noticed and moved away. Her eyes saw Naruto glaring at someone behind her. Her eyes glanced behind to see a woman. At first glance, she looked normal, but Anko couldn't help but feel uneasy at her presence. She also noticed someone standing close to her, a male with what she thought were white hair, since he was wearing a round hat covering his head, with little snake figures hanging at the edge of the cap. The hat was made of straw, with a thin white rope around the top. Anko walked back to her old position. Most of the students hadn't noticed her or Naruto eyeing the grass shinobi team, except a few who had glanced in their direction and seeing nothing amiss, except a certain Iowa shinobi. Interesting, but I wonder what are the likes of him doing here. If he's here, that means Orochimaru is taking this invasion plan seriously. I wonder what the old man would say, Kurisuchi thought with a small smile. Perhaps this Shunin exams could become the perfect opportunity to take revenge. Well, if you please hurry so that I can explain what you're going to do in the forest, the proctor spoke once again. Naruto had no hesitation on his face. He was not going to back down from it. He was fully confident in himself. He also had complete confidence in both his teammates, and that they were capable of handling anything. Are you guys ready? Yeah, they both said to him with grins. They took their forms and signed them without reading them. Shikamaru cracked his knuckles. He felt ready to complete this second challenge, and unlike the first one, this one will test his powers, but he had no doubt Naruto would protect them. As Naruto and Ino had finished signing their consent forms, Ino noticed that Naruto was deep in thought. Whiskers? Ino asked. Yeah. Naruto responded. You okay? You seem a little distracted. Ino asked. Yeah, it's just, Naruto started but stopped midway. Is it about your meeting with Lord Third earlier? Ino finished for him. Sigh, unfortunately, we learned something that is 100% troublesome. I can't tell you all the details yet, but I can tell you what I need to do during the test, aside from finding the scrolls. Naruto said. What is it? Ino asked. I'll tell you in 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, Anko appeared on the tree branch above them with a goofy grin. Anko? Ino and Shikamaru said in unison when they saw the snake mistress. What are you doing here? Ino asked curiously. Well, during my little fun with the Gaki, he slipped a piece of note in my hand, telling me to meet you guys later. So what's up, Naruto? Anko asked as she jumped down and sat next to Naruto. We shouldn't talk about this out loud. Ino-chan, would you be so kind? Naruto asked. Ino nodded and created a mind link for all 4 of them, everyone online. Ino asked. Yup, Naruto said. Yes, Shikamaru said. So, I just talk in my mind, and you all can't hear me? Anko asked. Yup. That's how the mind transmission jutsu works. Ino confirmed. Wow, talk about mind fucked, am I right? I wonder if I can do an echo in here. Anko asked herself with a mischievous smirk. Oh no, please don't, Ino didn't get to finish. Be gentle. Anko yelled out, but there was no echo whatsoever. Team 10 looked at her like they just had a major migraine. It doesn't echo in here, Anko. Ino pointed out in annoyance. Be gentle. Shikamaru asked with a raised eyebrow. It's my safe word. Mom likes it rough, Anko said proudly, with a smirk. Can we please stay on topic? Naruto, what is it you need to talk about? Shikamaru asked. Yeah, Gaki, hurry up. I need to get back to work, Anko said. Naruto then explained to them about his recent meeting with Hiruzen and his side mission to spy on Kabuto Yakushi. He also informed them about his suspicion on Shire, and the fact that Hiruzen's Anbus will soon be securing the area once the exam starts. So you're saying glasses-wearing creep and long-tongued weirdo are major suspects of espionage against Konoha? Anko asked to clarify. Yes, and my senses are practically screaming at me, warning me of danger every time I get near one of them. Naruto said. Kakashi did mention that you can sense the presence of hostility somehow, and Lord Third even confirms this. So I guess I just have to trust your hunch. What do you need me to do? Anko asked. For now, act natural. Be on alert for anything. Naruto said. You got it. So are we done here? Because I miss talking out loud. It's one of my best qualities. Anko said with a grin. I hope so. I'd rather not use most of my chakra before the exam even starts, Ino added. Yeah, we're done here, Naruto said. Ino immediately deactivates the mind link, and was slightly panting from using a good portion of her chakra. Naruto notices this and raises his hand as it starts to radiate gold-colored chakra. He then gently places it on top of Ino's head. A few moments later, a Chunin representative at the registering booth announced that they are ready to hand out their scrolls. Team 10 and everyone else who was sitting were now back on their feet, as one by one, each team went through the tent to receive their scroll. After all the Genins had signed their forms, Anko started again. Alright, listen carefully, everyone. I'll explain what you'll be doing in this test. This will test everyone's survival skills. Each team will be assigned a different entrance gate to enter the forest. In the forest center, there's a lock tower located 10 kilometers from each gate. It will be a race to reach the tower. But to enter the tower, your team needs to have both these Heaven and Earth scrolls. She showed them the scrolls in his hand. Half of you will receive the Heaven scrolls, and the rest will receive the Earth scrolls. So you have to fight to get both the scrolls. That means half of us will fail this test, Shikamaru mentioned. I said it will be a race. We can't allow a large number of squads to pass this test for the next round. And if any of you poor Genins die, your whole team will fail along with you. Not that will be your concern once you become food, Anko mentioned, shocking the Genins. What, with the cries of many Genins present there? You can't do that. That's totally unfair. Rules are rules. One more thing, the test has a time limit. You will get 5 days to finish this test, and the most important thing you should know is that you must not open the scroll before reaching the tower. If you open it, then your team will be disqualified immediately from the exams, Anko Proctor informed the Genins. What? What will we do about food? Choji cried out with anime tears on his face. There's plenty of animals and plants in the wilderness, of course. Try to eat any poisonous plant like Momoku, eat that, and you can say goodbye to your eyes. And of course try to hunt animals, but you can always end up their food, Anko said, grinning from the pale looks of many genins around, except a few teams that didn't look intimidated. Alright, please take your form over there. She pointed behind her. And exchange it for the scroll, and after that, each team will be assigned a gate to be let inside. After finishing the process and getting a debrief, all the Genin teams stood at their assigned gates, and waited for the signal to enter the forest. Naruto was also behind the gates with his teammates. He was deep in his thoughts. This test was very tricky and had a very high chance of failure. This exam was crucial for him, not only because it was the Chunin selection exam. It was essential for him, too, because he wanted to test out his limits, and there was no other way better than this. He wanted to dominate these exams. So, how are we going to do this? Ino spoke, clearly seeing that Naruto was thinking. Naruto grabbed the earth scroll. He puffed a scroll from his wrist seal and opened it. He put the earth scroll nearby, and started writing a seal. What are you doing, Naruto? Ino asked curiously, seeing the word written in Naruto's scroll. He then drew a circle around. He kept on drawing weird symbols and lines she couldn't understand. But then he saw him write another word close to the other one. She noticed he wrote almost the same lines and symbols around the other word, but she wondered what he was doing. Naruto took the earth scroll, and he wrote the word on the scroll, but the next thing she knew, the ink in the earth scroll disappeared, almost as if it was never there to begin with. Very well, now we are ready, and I will be the one keeping the scroll. Got it, Naruto ordered with a much different tone. His usual carefree and kind tone changed to a commanding one, and his eyes looked colder, almost ice. Both Ino and Shikamaru nodded their heads in agreement. Team 7. 5 days without food, Choji mumbled in fright as he opened a bag and started checking how much food he had. Will you shut up already? Sakura hissed. Is food all you can really think about? Choji, you don't have to be worried about the food. Because there will be plenty of animals and plants that we can eat in the forest, we will not starve. Sakura added. Sasuke was quiet and not really caring about Choji's food problem. The Akimichi frowned. I know. So stop moping and help us think about how we are getting another scroll. Sakura stated. Choji kept looking as he counted how many bags of chips, homemade cakes, and not mentioning sandwiches with meat he had. Sakura looked baffled at the amount of food Choji had in his bag, while Sasuke was scratching his head and thinking if his teammate was trying to lose weight, since it seemed he hadn't brought as much as he used to. Teammate. Alright, guys, let me lead. This is my specialty. Kiba informed his teammates. Akamaru barked in agreement. I'm fine with that. You use your nose and lead us to another team. My insects will find anyone nearby, then we ambush them and take their scroll. Shino said. It's a simple plan, but it should work. Right? Hinata agreed. She saw the logic and agreed with it. She also knew that Kiba was not weak. After the mission in Eldar Town, we can handle anything. This exam will be a piece of cake. The Inizuka proclaimed confidently with a grin. Hinata, you active your Byakugan the moment the doors open. We need your vision, Kiba said. Hi, Hinata agreed. I think we should also think about the teams we should try to avoid. Why, you ask? Well, the teams from Kumo, the team from Iwa, and especially Naruto's team, are not to be underestimated, Shino stated. Hinata nodded in agreement immediately, and she didn't want to fight Naruto. None of them is as strong as us, and I'm actually praying that we encounter Naruto, Kiba exclaimed with a big smile on his face. Akamaru shook his head in disapproval. Team 9. I will hold the scroll. You, Lee, will stay close to me. Tenten stays a bit further away for a surprise attack, Neji organized, looking at his teammates. Neither Lee nor Tenten held any objections. Neji, what should we do if we encounter any Konoha team? Lee asked, hoping they would avoid any encounter with any Konoha team. He would instead get the second scroll from a team from a foreign country. We take it, of course, even if it isn't the one we need. Fewer teams, the better, Neji stated. Lee didn't like the idea but didn't say anything, but then he remembered something. What about the 2 Kumo teams? Lee asked with a hint of dread. At the mention of the Kumo team, Neji's eyes looked covered in shadows. If we encounter them, I will make them curse the day their leader. Neji stopped making his point clear where he stood with the problem of the Kumo team. Tenten said nothing, but she didn't want to do this. Revenge wouldn't help, and not to mention, the Genins held no responsibility for what their leader tried to do. Suna team. Stay out of my way. I'll handle this exam. Gar ordered his teammates. Right? Of course, Gar. Conqueror replied nervously. Just the thought of spending so much time alone with the likes of him frightened him. He could only hope that the other teams would take the end of his rage. Tamari said nothing. She only sighed in annoyance and boredom. There was no reason for her to do anything. Gar could take on every Genin in this forest. This was too easy and boring for her. She knew the risks the blonde Genin possessed, but Gari was much stronger than him. Team Kumo. Very well, I'm in the front, Atsui. You stand behind me, same for you, Samui. If we encounter any enemies, you can deal with the other two. I will deal with whoever is the strongest, Yujiro said to his friends. Atsui just shrugged his shoulder while Samui looked deep in thought. Yujiro, what should we do if we encounter the Taki team or Naruto's team? Carrie asked, since both teams had their own Jinchuriki, and, therefore, not to be underestimated. Yujiro licked her lips slightly at the mention of Naruto. Don't worry about Naruto-kun. We will get along just fine. I would team. Are you sure about this, Kuretsuchi? The Tsuchikage specifically told us not to cause problems. When questioned her, keeping his distance from her, she narrowed her eyes in annoyance for questioning her logic. Grabbing him from his collar, she brought his face close to her face, her eyes narrowed. You know what Konoha did to us? That boy is too similar to be an accident, she claimed, her voice spitting venom, her eyes briefly glancing at the blonde in question. You know having blonde hair is not that uncommon, right? You want to kill some Konoha genins, go ahead, but if the trouble arises, you will be alone, and don't forget if they find out that you're not an actual genin, we will be in problems. The third member of the team spoke, his tone blank. She grunted at his response before letting go of the teammate. Stomping on the ground, she walked away to be alone with her thoughts, her mind going back to her mother. The last time she had seen her. Once we return, we will celebrate your birthday. You never returned, Kuretsuchi thought, her heart burning as she swallowed a huge breath, stopping the feelings from getting the better of her. Later. The 101st Chunin exams of Konoha starts now, a voice shouted. The gates around Forest of Death opened. The teams entered the forest. Team 10 ran forward in the triangle formation. They had prepared themselves for everything, and somehow Naruto knew this time wouldn't be so easy. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.